Alright, Scott, this is mainly for you, just to help you out with getting started on reloading, but it should be good for anybody else that's interested. I'm just going to do a couple 22 Hornets reloading through. Main dies I'm running, if I can see in the video, are the Hornety custom ones with the bullet seating collar. I have modified my dies a little bit. Well, minor modification on the seeder die, the expander die, sizer die. With the Hornet, here's the sizing die. I pulled the decapping pin because I run a separate decapping die in press, so I don't need this to pop the primer out. And I run a different expander die that also flares the mouth, so I don't need the expander button. So I just pop it out. So all this one does is it will shove the shoulder back and squeeze the case down a little bit. It'll be the first one I'll need here in a minute. Once it is centered, there it goes. I'm just putting it back in the press. Might take me a minute to get the camera angles figured out. Put that in there. Tighten her up just a little. All right, so first step is I need to actually trim the cases a bit. I'm gonna be using, oh, come on, little bugger, turn. There we go. That guy right there, that is my Forester case trimmer. I still need to tune it for the case, but I had to do little modifications to change it from the longer 30-06 case I had loaded to the shorter 22 Hornet. All right, it should be good. So, here's the Hornet case. Short, stubby, little brass cigarette, essentially. I need to prop it. I did measure them and I need to trim it. And I'll show you in the book. Book I generally like to use as the Lineman Reloading Manual, mostly because it has a lot of good stuff in there about using cast bullets, and I like running cast on occasion. So, like if you look, cast bullets. But the main thing I'm looking at is on this diagram of the case, this number there, the 1.403, is the max case length. And down here, it has trim 2 length. You don't want to go shorter than that. A couple thousandths shorter, not a big deal. But you don't want to be more than a couple thousandths. So I want to trim it to 1.393 or thereabouts. And then I'm going to be loading up the 33 grain jacketed hollow point from Speer. The bullet doesn't go quite that low, but I can extrapolate. It's kind of like, reloading is kind of like cooking. Follow the recipes until you know what each piece does, and then you can manipulate a little bit around that. But the lightest bullet, and I'm going to be using H110 powder, the lightest bullet's a 40. The max charge is 10 grains, minimum charge is 11, minimum charge is 9.9. If we look at what a 45 grain bullet is with the same powder, max charge is 10.2, starting is 9.9. So if we look at the max load for the 45 grainer at 10.2, the starting load for the 40 is about that same 10 grains. So if we go down that next smaller bullet, its starting load should be about the max load for this, which I know it's safe, I've done it before. So I'll be loading about 11 grains of H110. All right, so I'm gonna go through the process. Get my calipers. This is just a base to seat the case on, a little flatter, holds it nice and square, clamps on. You can get those from Hornety. I use it more with the other side, which this isn't for an ogive comparator. Essentially, it clamps on there, and the bullet can sink into it to where it measures off the ogive of the bullet, so you know exactly where it sits. But this case measures 1.401, so I'm going to take it down to the 1.393, or thereabouts. So I'll just try to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing with this. I'll see if I can keep my hands out of the way. All right, the way this one works is this has a squeezy collet in this side, and I don't have this adjusted yet. This is the adjustment for the depth. I will take the case, shove it in there, and it doesn't matter if I decap it or trim it first. It doesn't make a difference. I'll go ahead and squeeze this down. That squeezes it. Holds it square, and that's why I shove this in, because it squares it up. Now, this, I can't see on it, but there's a little set screw right here that does the micro tuning or the fine tuning for the case depth, and use this set screw to loosen it. This side is for the coarse. In the coarse, I will loosen it up all the way so it free flops, shove it until it touches. And now I will bring that in. I'll make sure I can reach that and it's not in the way of the handle. Tighten this up. So then I know I gotta go deeper. So I will loosen back this screw off, get in this, and I will back this off just a little bit. It's been a while, so I can't remember exactly how much of a turn does what in the seat or the case length trim. So I'll put it in there, trim it off, pop it out. There's supposed to be an O-ring there or a C-clip there that keeps it from popping out. I lost it years ago, so I just gotta watch I don't yank it out of there. So I did a little trim. You can see the shiny. It'll load. Yep. It is now right where I want it. 1.395. 1.393 is what we wanted. 1.395 is close enough. So I'm done with that, and I will go through and I'll just do a handful. But while I already got it up, I'll go ahead and zoom out so you can see. Oh, come on. Got it on the tripod and doesn't want to cooperate for me too well. This is just the cheap decapper. It's a universal decapping die in their cheap press. I've already got the shell holder in for the Hornet. I just pink, pops the primer out. That's the dirtiest part of reloading a case. And these ones I hadn't tumbled yet, so they're a little dirtier, but you don't have to tumble every time. It's not a big deal. But it keeps all the dirt in the cheap $20 press and the universal die that has no tolerances or no major tolerances that you need to worry about. So there's one. I just usually use the box that I store it in, so I hope you can see. Squeeze, trim. Once it's fully trimmed, you'll hear the sound change. You'll hear it cutting, and then all of a sudden now it goes from a cutting to a gliding sound. There's two. And if the case is too trim to cut doing this method, if it needs trimmed, then pushing it into the collet with this will seat it fully. If it's already too short and it doesn't need trimmed, then it's not gonna seat in all the way, and the cutter can't go any deeper anyway, so it's not gonna trim it shorter. It can only trim as deep as what that sets it. Trimmed. I'll do 4. I'll do 5. Give me a full magazine. You hear that sound change? I don't know if it picks up on the camera, but it went from that grindy cutting sound to just smooth gliding. One more. There's that. And I'll show you real quick what's actually holding the cases. Oh boy. Come on, you. There it is. All right. Here's what's holding on to this shell, or the cartridges. This little sleeve fits in there, and as you squeeze it down, it just squeezes these in to hold it. And there's different rings in there for different sizes and shapes of cases. This one happens to fit that. So that's what makes it where you can just use one cutter for multiple cases. And it comes with multiple of these as well. All right. Back in. Now, since we trimmed them, now we gotta deburr, because now since we used the cutter, there's a burr on the inside and outside. Just a couple passes, puts a little chamfer, good to go. And I just work my way down. And you can use your, as you see, I'm using my ammo box to hold the cases as I work. That works great. And you just work your way down the line. Just remember what direction you're going. And as you drop, you pull up the next one. Keeps you from losing track where you're at. Steps like this, it doesn't hurt a thing if you redo a step. All right, that's that part done. And the primer pockets really aren't that dirty, or I would trim them or clean them out, but I'm not worried about that. So next step, let's see if it shows. All right, I gotta move the tripod a little. We will be sizing the cases. Oh, tripod's not cooperating. There we go. All right, so sizer die. I will move the shell holder over. Generally, you want it set to where the last little bit of the stroke, it'll catch right before it cams over, and you want to pop it over. This one and this case shape isn't a big deal with that, and with the Hornet, that's another one of those little idiosyncrasies with it. It is fairly straight walled with a lot of taper, where it has a lot of taper, very slopey shoulder. So I want a little bit of compression fit going into the chamber. And it is slopey enough that you can crush this into place and it gets a tighter hold, more consistent grouping. So I only want, and the neck is ridiculously long for the bullets that it uses. Now here's the bullet. Where you seat it, you're only using half the neck. So you only need to size it down that far. Almost forgot a very important step. I really like the Imperial sizing wax. I've been using this canister for several years and I am far from using it up. So I just ring it. Well, I don't need to do the inside. Normally I ring it, use the inside. Not too much on my fingers. You don't want too much, you want just enough to put a sheen there. But I'll usually put a little bit inside the neck so the expander ball can more freely move through. Squeeze it down. Now, should be able to see where it squeezed only the first half of the neck. That is enough to hold the 22 bullets that are used in it, because that's all the further it's going to be. So that's all the further it needs squeezed. The rest of it now is going to be more tightly fit to the chamber and help it align better. And my fingers are already greased from the last time. You only need to re-dip your fingers every so often. There's that. Another one. And I can get away with a little less lubricating on these because I'm only squeezing that part. All right, that's it for the sizing die on those 4. So unlock that. And the 22 Hornet has really thin case walls. I hope this is showing. Yes, it looks like it is. So I also use, because of the thin neck walls, so you can see just how thin those are. And most of the bullets are flat based. These ones are actually a dome based, where it would crush going in. So I use a Lyman M style expander. It'll expand the inside diameter to a more uniform thickness, and it flares the outside. I've already got it adjusted, but if I was going to be adjusting it for the depth, with stuff like this, you start out as far as possible. Like, you want to essentially see, if I was going to be tuning this, what I would do is, you want it, the shell holder to just touch the bottom of the die whenever you're all the way extended. Then I turn this all the way out. Seat the case. Well, I need to do something real quick because this one actually has the expander button. I'll put a little lube on the inside rim of the mouth. But this one's already adjusted. It already flares it where I want it. But if not, you seat the case all the way up, and now you start cranking this down until you feel it start to contact. Generally, that's where the start of the button is touching the mouth of the case. But then, the way the M style works is it also has a little flare that flares out just the mouth of the case. So, the bullets can start nice and square, and you're not going to crush the case as the bullet seats. Heck, I can actually show you how to do that because I'd like to show you the inside of the case. I'm going to squeeze this down because I know the body's where I want it. So squeeze that ring so it doesn't go anywhere. I don't mind readjusting this, it's easy to do. And this is a useful piece of information. Ah, come on, you. Try to get it to go. I tighten the snot out of this one. There we go. Lock ring's loose. Once you get it adjusted, tighten your lock rings. If it has set screw, I'd go ahead and set it so I don't have to worry about adjusting it. But here is the M-style expander. This part straightens the case and gets it that uniform diameter, just about 2,000 smaller than the actual bullet. And then this right here creates that little belling that makes it easy to seat the bullet. That belling is not needed for anything with a boat tail. Very handy for anything with a flat base. So now that I got retuned, I'll back it off a little bit. Here's the case I want to use. So I'll put a little lube inside the rim. Doesn't take much, just a little. So I will raise it up, see where it's at. I don't have a flare yet, and it doesn't seat. So I will turn this down about a quarter turn. Do it again. You can test with the bullet, see if you're there yet. Doesn't quite seat. And with this case, it will crush the case mouth if you don't have these flat bases squared up right. I don't think it's quite there, but it might be. Nope, not there yet. Another quarter turn-ish. Getting close. Always closer. Not there yet. This is the fiddly part with reloading. Once you get everything set up and tuned, you can fly through cases. You just do one step for all of them. All right, that's where I want it. It's starting to flare, and I can start seating the bullet by finger. It's not quite exactly where I want it, so I'll go a little bit more. Should be a little better. There, that ain't bad. Get the next one. Now I'll go ahead and it's almost there. Tighten this back up so it doesn't lose adjustment on me. Sized. And you don't have to check every one. I'm just checking the first couple to make sure it's tuned where I want it. I think it's good enough, but because I'll be using a crimper, I don't mind it being a little bit looser fitting with the bullet. I'll get to that step in just a moment. I'll do just a little more. Sorry if this video's turned out a little longer than I anticipated, but this is even tuning everything. But that's where I want it. The tuning is the fiddly bit. All the rest is no big deal. All right, there's 5 of them ready to go there. So that is flared. They are ready to accept the bullet in the powder. But first I need primers. And the one I use is the RCBS hand prime. The way it works, I need to pull the shell holder. I dump this out. Loosen the screw, slide this. Do not let go of this, it makes things go flying. Pop that out. That goes on there. Slide it. Back through. back in. This has two sides, flat and a little bit rounded. The rounded side goes in because there's a little pusher on the bottom that ramps it up and just gets a more smooth push. So there's that part. And now this. I only need 5, so I will cover up all but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put this here. If I can get that working. Turn it. Yay. And it has those little ridges in it, so if you just shake it, it'll give it a little light shake, it'll turn all the primers proper side up. Because the back side is domed and the front side side that goes in has a lip, so it catches, turns it, shut it, put it in. Now you can turn it, feed them into there, and right there it'll show there's one ready. So I can just put it in. I close my eyes and turn away just in case, but I've never had one pop. You got a primer seated. To know it's seated right, you just feel your thumb across the bottom, and as long as it's not protruding, it's fine. You actually want just it slightly recessed in beyond the rim. Get in there, little bugger. When it gets low, it's hard to get them to feed smooth, or feed every time. But you want them slightly recessed, so then if the bottom of the casing bumps or falls or whatever on a flat surface, it doesn't hit the primer. There we go, and one more. There we go. Oh, I had one extra in there. Alright, no big deal. Just turn that, closes it, make sure she's empty, and just put it back. Alright, primers. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the Remington 5.5 small pistol primers. Works great for the Hornet, but any small pistol works. Alright, so since that's ready, they are primed, they are ready. I will take the shell holder back out. So pull it, dump the pusher, pull this, and I'll put it back on there. It's domed. Which I accidentally bent mine, so it has a little catch when it's fully closed. New, they won't have that. There we go. This out of the way. Alright, so now we are ready to powder them. And I can also remove the expander, because once I powder, I go ahead and do all the steps, besides the crimping. Get rid of this. Here's the seeder. It has a little collar on it to help hold the bullet and case in alignment. Oh, sorry. Helps hold it in alignment until it gets to where it actually seats it, and then pushes it. It actually pushes up there a ways. And I have the die. A lot of these dies have a built-in roll crimper. You want to back off a little bit from full cam. Take it to where it cams. Back off just enough where now it does not cam over, and you'll be out of the crimp area. And then you use this to adjust your bullet seating depth. And since I haven't loaded this bullet in a bit, I'm gonna go ahead and back this off. All right, I'm gonna swap this out. I have the 30 caliber on. I will swap to the 22. This one is a drop tube. Aw, it's a little loose. I don't know why. O-ring's probably just a little loosened up. Oh well, no big deal. But this one has a dropper tube, so as you dump the powder, it builds up a little speed, so you can pack more powder into the case. With the Hornet, that's nice because it is a small case, and if I was using little gun, it's a necessity because it holds 14, with the light bullets and little gun, it loads 14 grains of powder, or up to 14, and that is a full to the brim case. Alright, so I'll show you my scale and adjusting it. This one's the Redding, as you can see over. Yeah, get it to work. There we go. Over here, it has little notches that show you just how far off of 0 it actually is. Each notch is a 1/10 of a grain. That's little enough, I'm not worried about it. It's pretty close. Alright, so now we wanted 11 grains of H110. Since I'm only doing 5, I'm going to scoop. And now each one of these notches is 5 grains. So I want 1, 2, I can get it there. 15, 0, there we go. And then 1 on this. Each one of these notches is 1/10 of a grain. So, now I have it set. Hold on so you can see a little better. 2 notches over. Every notch is 5 grains. Every notch is 1/10 of a grain with 1 grain increment. So I have it set at 11 grains. That's back there. Alright, so I'm just going to use a scooper because I'm only doing a few. And I love good tricklers. So I will fill the trickler first. And I put lead shot in the bottom so that it stays more stable. But it's just a straw, a metal straw with a pickup on it, with a notch in it to pick it up. And you just turn it and it trickles little bits of powder in it. And H110 is considered a ball powder, so it's these itty bitty flakes. Ball powders aren't as temperature insensitive as extruded. Extruded powders are more temperature insensitive and more variable, but it is far easier to get a consistent loading with ball powders because they are so small. And just a few granules doesn't make a difference in the charge weight. Versus extruded, whenever I use 4831 long cut with the 280 or the 284 Winchester, those granules are 1/10 of a grain for each one. All right, so here is the dipper set if you want to use a dipper. I've got the dispensers in the back, but if I'm only doing a couple cases, I don't bother getting those set up and tuned and whatnot. But more pain in the butt than it's worth for more than just more than a full box of ammo. So here's the dispenser, the dippers. It's got a chart of different powders, and then the CC size chart of powders, grain scale, but then it has a thing that lines up with the CC scooper for how many grains it is. So I want H110, wherever it hides at on this chart. And there's 2 sides to the chart. Ah, there it is, way down here. So I need that side to line up. So I can flip it, get that in there. Now I know H110 is way down here, so now I just line it up until I hit H110. 11, turn that, that's the glare gone. That 10.7 is the closest to 11 grains, so I want the 0.7 scooper. And I'll show you the scooper thingies. I want the 0.7, so this dude, 0.7. And as you can see from the dirt, that's the one I use a lot. I used to load a lot of Hornet back in the day. But it's been a little bit since I've been on a shoot like I used to. Used to be I'd go through and just load testing, shoot 100 rounds in a day just playing with it. And I do that a couple times a week. All right, so just make sure I can see it. I'll fill it. Tap it down flush. Because I've got the trickler, I'm not worried about a precise scoop. Now, you can see that started to move. And it's really not very far off. It's a couple tenths short. So, I will start trickling until it zeroes out. And for the trickler, I'll hold it so it doesn't fly off, and I'll just start spinning until the powder starts to come out. The tube for the trickler is a slight downward angle. All right, there we go. So that it lets it feed at a very gradual rate. And you just slowly spin it until the notches line up. Once those notches line up, you're good to go. Now, I'll zoom back out so you can see. I will pull the case I want to use. Beep. Where did I put my funnel? It's probably right under my nose, and I forget where I put it. Ah, right there. half of my reloading time is spent just wondering where I put the piece of equipment I'm messing with. So dump that in there, tap, tap, tap. Make sure all the stuff came out. And now, there you go. This is how full a 22 Hornet gets with 11 grains of powder. As you can see, it's loaded clear up to here. So a true double charge isn't going to happen. If you're using a proper burn rate powder, you will be well over half the case. You're probably going to be closer to 90% full. So you won't get a dangerous overcharge. So I will then put that in the press. Get this angle right. There we go. Cartridge is in the press. I like to do this so I can't accidentally knock over a charged case. Seat it, raise it up, and now just boop. All right, I got my seater set too far back. It barely pushed it in there. So then it barely moved, so I'll do half a turn, do it again. Barely moved it, barely moved at all. It's probably not even contacting. Half a turn. Still not enough. These are short bullets, so it'll be very noticeable when it goes, or they will be very sunk in the case. All right, that one finally moved a little. But as you can see, it's barely in the case. And you want at least a caliber deep, so it's essentially squared how deep it is. Now I can go to quarter turn. And I'm not worried about perfect seating depth on these because these are so short they don't seat proper anyway, or they don't have like a perfect head spacing. Bullet jump, there we go. They're short, so they fit the magazine no problem. Even if they're just sitting on top, they'll fit in the magazine. And they're so short they don't get a proper jump anyway. Plus, wide ogive bullets with a flat base are inherently accurate. This will be your best combination bullet for close range accuracy, but they have no BC. All I want is, you can see where it goes from like straight and it starts to taper into the ogive. I want right at the top of that square at the rim of the case, so it needs to go just a little deeper. So now I'm at that close mark, so I'll go like 1/8 turns. And if you want to see how much each one moves, you can get your calipers going. Check it. 1.636. It's pretty dang close. So you can see that's about where it's at, and it's getting close. It needs to go just a little further, probably about 1/100 of an inch further. So I will do 1/8 of a turn again. Crank. And it was 636. Now it's 629. It's 1/2. Approximately. Deeper. It's getting close. It's probably actually good enough for what I need to do. So, that's ready. I will set that above where I'm at and go on to the next case. Now that that's set, I do not have to touch the cedar die again. It stays where it's at. Another scoop. You'll see it move. Give it just a second, and actually it landed pretty much dead on, so I don't have to trickle that one. So I'll zoom you back out, grab a case, funnel, and I will hold the case in the funnel so it doesn't move. Dump. Grab a bullet. And when the cases are more full, you can get a visual cue of, is it proper? Just look in the mouth of it, just a quick glance, just make sure it looks about the same, and it's seated. There's 2. Tap that low, tap that flush. Watch that go. This one's a little low, so I'll trickle in. I don't necessarily wait for the scale to stop flopping, because the needle will articulate back and forth. But just take the average of in the middle of the oscillations, and that's where its true weight is. But that oscillation it's shifting a quarter of a 1/10 of a grain in its oscillations. So it's really not showing off that much. And a 1/4 of a 1/10 of a grain is nothing in speed spread or grouping or anything. many times 1/10 of a grain, depending on the size of the case. With small ones like this, 1/10 of a grain is a noticeable charge difference, like just noticeable. On bigger cases, like 30-06 size for big game, 1/10 of a grain is nothing. That's where I fine tune. For finding your load, you do half grain charges to jump from one charge to another to figure out where his happy spot is. And then 10th grain charges is you're wanting to get finicky on your speed. Like that's where I'll do half grain jumps to find where it shoots the best. And then I'll do 10th grain charge differences to figure out where the flattest spot in its speed spread is. Like the speed will be almost the same, but which one has the best spread? See that? One more. And this one's a little overcharged. Got 10th of a grain high, so you can just scoop out a little bit, put it back in the trickler, wait for it to level out again. I took out a little much, and I can just trickle it back up. And the smaller the case and the faster burning the powder, the more particular you have to be on the charge. Big cases are not charge particular. You don't have to wait for that perfect charge on a big case. If it's off 1/10 of a grain on the big cases, no big deal. You won't even notice in field conditions. I don't even notice it when I'm out target shooting until I start to stretch beyond 1,000 yards or shooting really small targets at 1,000. All right, there we go. There's all 5. Primed, charged, seated, almost ready to go. There's one step left, and that is crimp. With this case, it really likes a crimp because big work, it really likes it. I use just the, it shows it, just the wee crimper. It has a little collet inside that as you seat up, this part actually moves a little. So once you seat it and the bottom of the press pushes on it, it'll actually squeeze it, and it squeezes those 4 pedals. So this one you want it to actually move. The tuning with this one is you start off with where it just squeezes it whenever you seat the case. And it's sized for specific cases. Like when I move it, it's touching right there, and the last little bit squeezes it down, which is what you want. All right, that is crimped, and it's about perfect. And this crimper works without needing an ogive. There we go. It shows it at all. The right one is crimped, the left one is not. It's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see where this is a smoother transition, and this one's a little rougher or sharp. That's the crimp. It helps with a hornet. It helps hold the bullet in place while the powder itself starts to ignite. Because being short and straight with a relatively low charge, thin case wall, so it doesn't have a lot of neck tension. If you don't crimp it and you don't have or you have too hot of a primer, the primer can actually push everything up, and the bullet will dislodge before the powder has a chance to ignite. So this and the weaker primer help keep that from happening, and you get more consistent grouping and speed spreads. And that is my case is done. That is my full loading procedure. Now it's just pick up. I hope that was helpful. So if that shows some of the stuff. And if you ever get into neck turning, which is only important for higher level target shooting, that trimmer also has a neck turner, like an outside neck turner. Really not important until you get to high level competition stuff. If you're trying to get down to like 10th grain groupings or squeeze out an extra, like let's say you're trying to drop a 1/4 inch to your group size at 200 yards, or you're trying to squeeze an extra 2 feet per second speed spread, that makes a difference. But that's how I reload a Hornet.